His ex-girlfriend cheated but claims he is her baby's father, and now she's seeing his sister? My 18-year-old son found out that one of his ex-girlfriends is 8 months pregnant. He had no idea she was pregnant until now, and he was expected to accept everything without question. My daughter, who is 20, is good friends with this girl and knew about her pregnancy, but she didn't tell us since her buddy asked her not to. My son adored this lady. However, she ended up hurting his heart by cheating on him and being extremely needy and manipulative. He spent a lot of money on her because she would beg for presents that my son couldn't afford and persuaded him to use one of my credit cards to get them. My daughter, who isn't now living with us but is rooming with this girl near her college, is also being manipulated by her and believes she only does good and doesn't believe she got her brother to use my credit card, or that she cheated. She arrived up at my door with my son's ex-girlfriend to inform us that she is pregnant. When I saw her standing at my door, visibly pregnant, I knew she was going to tell me that my son was the father of her kid. And I immediately stated that my son will not contribute any money or time until a paternity test confirms that it is his child. My son truly supported me and agreed. My daughter was appalled by my reply and accused me of pushing him to be a deadbeat father. She was also furious that I did not even give them the opportunity to defend themselves. My son's ex began crying, saying that you always think the worst of me, that she suffered through 8 months of pregnancy alone, and that the least we could do was make sure she was taken care of for the sake of his child. I agree that if it's his child, we'll make sure she's doing well in order to ensure baby's good health. But I don't want my son to become engaged with her only to have his heart torn again, and to discover that the child isn't his. Am I the jerk here? As a quick update, my daughter and I spoke over the phone. And I told her that if the baby is truly his, the text will just confirm his duty for the kid, and that I would never encourage my son to abandon any of my grandchildren. My daughter ultimately agreed that the test would be beneficial and promised to call me back later. I received a text instead of a call asking if they could come over to discuss, which I agreed to. And when they arrived, my son's ex admitted to not knowing who the father was, and that she had been in several relationships, which is why she took so long to notify my son, because she was trying to figure out who the child's father was. But she's suddenly convinced it's my son. She agreed to conduct the paternity test as soon as we were able to do so, on the condition that I pay for it. Another thing I discovered is that my daughter and my son's ex had started a love relationship, which is completely shocking to me. I mean, that explains why she has been so supportive of my son's ex, but it is not anything I expected my daughter to do. I mean, that's her brother's ex, the person who broke his heart. It's simply not something I comprehend. I will always adore my daughter, but it saddens me to see my son be so upset by this whole circumstance. So, am I incorrect here? Well, this is simply a mess. You and your son are completely justified in insisting that she prove whether it is his. It is only right. I'm not sure if your daughter would be willing to raise the child if she and the ex are romantically linked. That would be a very odd family situation. And certainly if the paternity test is positive, your son must do his share and pay child support. Which is unfortunate because he is so young and his girlfriend appears to have treated him and everyone else she is involved with horribly. Sure, I'll keep my dinners under $30, as per the policy. I will make sure it is $30. Every single time. For reference, this was written in 2021. My job requires me to fly in, fly out, and travel frequently. Usually I'm so preoccupied with work when on site, or I'm stationed somewhere with food options I don't want to waste my calories on, that I don't eat anything for the entire day, or just get a coffee. Our employee cost policy at work is $30 per day, which is generally adequate, but there are some high cost of living places and my meals sometimes exceed that policy since there aren't many options, especially if I want to eat properly, which is critical when you're constantly on the road. They haven't reopened yet, so there aren't many options other than fast food. So I submit my costs 1 month, and I've gone $1.50 above the daily limit since I treated myself to a coffee and a meal that morning, because I was exhausted from the god-awful early travel. The company recently altered its policy, and now a different group of people approves expenses. Previous passengers didn't mind going over by a few dollars because it balanced out with trips where I didn't eat anything. But this new group is a stickler and denied the expense, claiming I had exceeded the daily limit. I tried to argue that I hadn't eaten anything during my previous 10 visits that month, but they wouldn't budge. It definitely left a foul taste in my mouth. Now, every visit I force myself to spend as close to $30 as possible because screw them. My spouse is pleased since it means I can now bring back slightly squished but free meals for him. I feel horrible about wasting food, yet I regularly buy a meal, eat a few bites, and then throw it away. However, the spending policy is $30 per day, and I am going to keep to it today. While I used to bill $100 for the entire month because I didn't eat, I now bill twice or 3 times that amount, I used to push myself to work all day, but now I take my 30 minutes to go grocery shopping, which means they get 30 minutes less work from me as well. Another productive and cost-saving employee turned bitter and pricey. In this context, it means devoting as much of the company's time and money as possible to spite them. Well done, penny-pinching bosses, you did it again. All because you couldn't allow your hard-working employee enjoy a cup of coffee. What are you going to think of next? I honestly don't see myself going to all that trouble just to get back at someone. But it's difficult to call the author a jerk when she's simply getting something she's entitled to under corporate policy on a daily basis. I'm not sure how much pressure the expenditures guys were under to maintain staff inside budget. To be honest, if they were being pressured by higher-ups, I can't really blame them. But what if they just decided on their own that cheating a good employee out of $30 for going $1 over budget was the hill they wanted to die on? Not cool. And enormous jerks. If you liked Am I the Jerk, you'll probably enjoy Am I the Genius. Check out the link below. Go to amithejjerk.com/submit if you want to contribute your own stories. Is it wrong of me to reveal my ex's sexual orientation in order to get his mother to stop bothering me? It's a long and painful story. But my soon-to-be ex-husband is gay and kept it from me. I found out when I caught him cheating, and he openly confessed that he knew he wasn't attracted to me in that way. But he wanted children and a normal life. I don't mind that he's gay, but I'll never forgive him for taking advantage of me in order to have children. So it is over. This is the end of the story. The trouble is that his family, with the exception of a few individuals, are religious nutjobs, and his mother is the intrusive mother-in-law from hell. Another significant benefit of leaving is that I am no longer related to her. His family does not believe in divorce, so as I was picking up some paperwork and other stuff belonging to my ex, she cornered me about how I was acting childishly and how marriage is about commitment, forgiveness, and problem-solving. It became clear that my ex did not inform his family that he cheated. He informed his mother that I was divorcing him because we weren't doing it. Frequently enough for me. I attempted to be patient and explained that he had cheated, which is why I wouldn't go into further detail, because I understand how his parents are, and it is none of their business. The mother-in-law's suggestion, I kid you not, was that guys are simply that way, and if I wanted to do the deed more and keep him from straying, I should make myself more appealing to my husband and be a better wife. At that time, I had entirely lost the story. It had been a terrible and difficult day, and this was the final straw. Here's where I might be a jerk. I told her that the only thing that would make me more appealing to my ex was a sex change operation, and that I hoped he and his boyfriend would adopt her some grandkids so she could finally stop talking about it. It wasn't my best moment, but she struck the worst and most raw nerve she could, and I exploded. It's clearly developed into a massive family drama. He's probably going to be disowned, and my ex called, sobbing that I'd ruined his life for spite. I'm not sure how to feel about it. I feel bad for him since his parents are such awful people, and there were no positive outcomes for him. But I also believe he created his own bed in this situation. To clarify a few points. 1. There was virtually minimal risk of violence. His family are fundies, but not the violent kind. They're more of the Mormon-averse sort. One of his cousins came out of the closet and left the church, and after the initial outrage, they all simply stopped talking to him, and basically treated him as if he were dead until he was ready to repent or whatever. They're passive-aggressive, repressed, and odd as hell, but I don't think anyone will physically hurt him. He is not financially reliant on them and has a good career, so if they force him out, he will be able to support himself. 2. He's known he was gay long before I met him. So this was neither a new discovery nor an admission to himself. He has a boyfriend who he has been dating for 6 months before we were married. Searched through his computer after catching them in the act and pushing him out, and I discovered him logs and other proof from before he started dating me. He genuinely set everything up so that he could have a good Mormon family on the outside while keeping his family happy. That is it. He never loved me. I was only the first girl to show a consistent interest. As an update, Lord knows I wouldn't have believed this could happen to me before it did. But some people have inquired how things were doing, and there aren't many venues where I can freely discuss what's going on for obvious reasons, so I figured this would be an excellent method to clear my mind while also informing others who were interested. By the way, I appreciate everyone's varied points of view. I'm quite conflicted about the scenario. It's useful to see other people's perspectives and values on the subject. I don't trust my intellect right now, but putting this out and reading the responses has helped me find some peace and go on. Following the incident with my ex's mother-in-law, I have finally had radio quiet from his immediate family. So that is a relief. I work at the same place as a couple of his extended family members, so I still have to see them, but they haven't taken it up. They all know that they can only contact me through my lawyer now, and everything significant that belonged to my ex has already been passed on. So, Everything else can now be referred to the legal office. I shouldn't have to engage with them, but it's difficult to avoid people in a small town. My ex attempted to break into my house while I was at work on the day I posted the tale, and I filed charges. I'm not sure how it will play out or why he's doing this when it will only get him into more trouble, but I'm letting my lawyer and the cops handle it. I'm staying with my folks for a time till I feel safe. I don't know what happened with him and his family, and I don't want to find out. My ex and, I believe, his family propagated rumors about me before the argument with the mother-in-law, which has made living in this tiny town difficult. It's a small village, and people approach me differently today. The local stake president has been helpful, and after learning of the cheating with no mention of orientation, he stated that he would attempt to help with the rumors. I don't want to leave the neighborhood, but I'm thinking I might have to, at least temporarily, until the legal issues are resolved. My lawyer and I have agreed to file for annulment, as it will take less time and be more difficult to contest in this case. Hopefully the ex will not contest it. I'm pleased we never combined finances. There won't be too many mutual assets to deal with. I'll be well financially, though. This could have been a lot worse if I were a stay-at-home mother or anything. I am planning to start therapy soon. I was thinking about leaving anyhow, even before this all came out, because I had been feeling down about how things were going in my marriage for a time. I don't want to lose any more of myself or my time than I already have, and I hope to feel good enough to start dating again sometime. Right now I'm not sure. Even thinking about it aches. I wanted to touch on a few points raised in answers to the post. I am a Mormon, but inactive for much of my life. I do not wish to paint the entire Latter-day Saints church with this brush. My ex and his family are not normal, but I know there are others like them out there. Please do not make generalizations about gay people based on this story either. There are LGBTQ people near to my heart who would never do this to anyone. I don't believe that outing people is typically okay, otherwise I wouldn't feel so horrible about anything. My ex's family put this up through their intolerance. I wish none of this had occurred to either me or him. The takeaway, I believe, is to avoid outing people if possible. Even if some people consider it justified under the circumstances, it is not good and does not feel good. My name is a little clearer, and I am no longer disturbed directly by his family, but that is all. Now I need to find out the next step. This is another extremely messy one, but I believe the author's last remarks encapsulate the best counsel anyone can offer. Outing people takes away what should be a very personal and private aspect of their lives, and, in some situations, puts their lives in jeopardy. However, we don't know how long the mother would have continued to force her way into this woman's life if she hadn't revealed that aspect of her husband's infidelity. Despite his responsibility in this situation, I feel sorry for the man. He was certainly under a lot of pressure to conform, and based on what I've heard from this family and neighborhood, his social life may have been utterly upended. If he has a nice, qualified job, it's simple to suggest he can just go work somewhere else with his boyfriend, but having to up and leave the life you've always known is a terrible deal. So, while there are some jerks here, religious fundamentalism is the main villain. Also, the mother is terrible. Imagine hearing that a female family member had been cheated on and encouraging her to just do more to prevent her man from cheating as frequently. It's extremely twisted. Would I be a jerk if I declined to attend my sister's wedding because I could not bring my girlfriend as a +1? So I'm a lesbian, and I've been with my partner for about 2 years. My family, including my sister, is fine with my being homosexual and supportive of my relationship. However, her fiancé comes from a conservative and devout household, and while he is great, his extended family is quite conventional and anti-gay. My sister handed me my invitation in person, rather than mailing it, and she stated that I wouldn't be bringing a +1, because having a gay couple at the wedding would most certainly cause a lot of trouble with this side of the family. All of my other siblings have +1s and are invited to bring their heterosexual partners. I get where she's coming from, but it still feels like a slap in the face. I'm not going to try to compel her to give me a +1, but I'm definitely thinking about not going. I adore my sister, but I'm not comfortable spending the entire day alone, while my other siblings are permitted to bring their spouses, simply because my sister wishes to kowtow to a group of bigots. I haven't told anyone yet, but if I remain home, would I be a jerk? Of course, it's their wedding and their choice, but I believe the happy couple are more likely to be the jerks in this case for not simply informing the family that there will be people from all walks of life at the wedding, and that if they want to come, they must set aside their narrow worldviews. Your sister and brother-in-law will be even greater jerks if they hold it against you for not showing up. Yeah, let's just say that it will be a point against them if they accept your absence on the problem, but they'll be giant blazing pieces of crap if they expect you to appear but don't allow you to bring the person you love. It's a difficult situation, and I hope your family can get through it without too much turmoil. Personally, I believe they simply tell the in-laws to swallow their nasty racism for one day. Am I a jerk for returning the money my spouse stole from my relatives for attending our cookout? For reference, my spouse is from a wealthy family and has received a number of assets from his relatives. One of them is the large house where we currently live, which has a pool and a large backyard with many attractions. We decided to organize our first barbecue 7 months after we married, inviting both his and my families. That was on Friday. Both families arrived, and we had a great time before everyone left. My mother then called me, and she did not sound well. She inquired whether my family had taken money from his relatives prior to attending the barbecue. I was perplexed, so I inquired what she was talking about, and she explained that my husband paid every single individual on my side of the family that attended the event $25. I was really astonished and outraged, and I felt as if this had legitimately harmed my relationship with the majority of my family, as practically all of them had come over. Not only that, he received $275 from them. I was furious, so I hung up the phone and confronted him immediately. He informed me that my family was able to appreciate the space and scenery, and that I should consider it a resort cookout because his house has many conveniences. I told him it was a terrible thing to do. What made it worse was that his family did not pay, whereas mine had to. He laughed and told me that his family had given him this house. I insisted he return the money, but he refused, saying he won't even give it to me because the house is technically his. I went and took the money and returned it to everyone who had paid, along with a sincere apologies from me. My spouse found out and yelled at me, calling what I did an overstep and disrespectful. I told him he shouldn't have taken money from my family for being guests at our house, but he corrected me, saying it was his house, and that he'd bet my family had never had the opportunity to attend a cookout at a house like this for only $25. But I disrespected him by going behind his back and taking money that wasn't mine. We stopped talking after this dispute, and he continues to complain to his mother about my taking his money, which he earned his own way. Is he a jerk? Don't worry, jerky husband is here. In fact, you should be scared because of this. What a piece of trash. Trying to run a business out of your family is a shady, unethical approach. Look, if you're not doing so well financially, you may definitely let folks know that a money contribution would be appreciated. However, holding such an event and concealing the fact that attendees must pay until after the fact is simply disgusting. And then he doubles down on his strange, twisted logic that they should pay for the privilege of living in your far nicer mansion than their poor buttocks could ever afford.